All right, welcome back to another episode here, Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
I like your hat, Sean.
Thank you.
The flag and everything. What is that?
I think this is the 47. What's that brand? The 47. Best hats I've ever owned. It's like the brand is 47. 47brand.com.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, number 47 brand. I've got like 3 of their hats from different organizations. I think this one's from Hat Trick.
Okay.
They're
it looked
charity.
like something like a Go Ruck or something. I was thinking.
This is Operation Hat Trick, OHT.
Yeah.
So they give a portion of their proceeds to veterans.
Awesome.
But this hat company sells for like Spartan gear, for some other companies, and they're my, I've got like 20 hats.
Yeah.
The 3 that I reach for are all 47 brand hats. Even
Really?
though they came from different places. Best hats out there.
Cool.
Super comfortable. So
To check that out.
yeah, good stuff.
Well, we're on to today. We're going to be talking about gradualization, or moving on from identification, which we talked about last week. Spent some time on that. Today, we're going to be talking about creating that belief.
Yeah, so I love the subhead of this chapter, and it's in breakthrough advertising. We're kind of picking that back up. I think we took a break on the last episode. I've slept since we recorded that one, so I'm not sure if that's correct.
Yeah.
But this is chapter 9 in breakthrough advertising.
Yep.
And it says how to make your prospect believe your claims before you state them.
Wow.
So that's kind of intriguing.
It is.
So we'll leave them hanging right there.
Right.
Open loop.
Open loop.
And then we'll talk about the beer that you found on your travels this week.
Yeah. So this is a place that I love to stop at. It's in a town called West Point, Georgia. It's about 45 minutes south of Atlanta, down 85. And great little place, downtown West Point, small town. But this brewery, he's actually a guy that was stationed at Fort Benning, retired. He was a colonel.
I spent 8 weeks there myself.
Oh, yeah. Fun place to be, right? Especially here in the summer.
Yes.
But this guy, it was a dream of his to start a brewery. He started with a partner of his, and they have done really well. So they've probably been around for the last, I would say, last 2 to 3 years. Really cool place. Unique in the sense that, obviously they don't serve food. You go in there with a card. They zap your card, however much you plan on spending, $20, whatever. For me, I'll usually put like 20 on there, but you just slide your card into any of the slots, and they've got a little screen that shows their different.
Oh, and it's the taps are lined up. Yeah, there's
taps
one of those
are lined
in Knoxville.
Up. Yep, I know. We were talking about
Pour
that.
room,
So.
pour tap room.
Yep.
Yeah,
but I love that because you can kind of, you're only charged by how much you. So if you want to sample a little bit, you're not sure about something, you want to sample a taste maybe of a new ale or a new stout they've got in.
Right.
You can take a little small sample. Only cost you maybe 75 cents. Stop, taste it. If you don't like it, then you turn your glass up and it just rinses it right out. So
that's cool.
So these are 2 of my favorite. Or actually, this is one of my favorites. We're going to be featuring 2 on here, and this is the Deep Thoughts Ale. One of my favorites there. So I'm not sure.
Jack Candy's favorite beer.
Yeah. Deep Thoughts. We mention a lot of Saturday Night Live stuff, don't
Saturday Night Live, yeah, whatever. 80s movies. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
You got to get one TV or movie reference in every show.
All the time.
Yeah.
So they don't usually, usually most people go in there, they'll spend some time having a brew, but they will can it for you. So I canned 2 of my favorites, and this is one of them that we're going to be testing here today.
We were talking about, this is a great example of just like getting out there and like putting a product out.
Yep.
Which is not really the point of this show, but it is kind of interesting. And there's some
doesn't have to be perfect.
It's like literally just a silver can with it's hard to, if you're watching on YouTube, it's literally just like a paper label.
Right.
Slapped on here. The canned on date is handwritten on the label. And it's just, it's got.
And trust me, they sell a lot of that.
There's no copy on this at all. It's just like Deep Thoughts Amber Ale, 6.2 ABV, canned on and canned to buy. And the government warning takes up half the label.
Yeah, I mean, simple to do. But I'll see people in there all the time just coming in there not to sit down. So a lot of people sit down, have a brew, and then they'll take some to go. But a lot of people just come in there and we'll get, a couple of 6-packs of their best and head on out. So,
all right, well, cheers.
Cheers.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Definitely a little lighter than what we're used to, but it's still pretty. It's good flavor though.
We've taken a break from the porter stout.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
And they do a lot of IPAs, which I don't think you or I are huge fans of the IPAs, but they do a lot of those and ales. They had a couple of they have a couple of light stouts, lighter, like a white chocolate stout that was pretty good. But these are two of my favorites, or this one and the one that we're gonna try the next one.
No, that's good. It's like I said before the show started, Newcastle used to be my go-to.
Oh yeah,
for a while, and then
does this kind of remind you?
It does. It definitely reminds me based on the color.
Yeah,
and even the flavor's a little. It's got that brown ale kind of nutty flavor. So yeah, it's good.
What was it about? I think it's about.
This is an amber ale, right? That's
right, amber ale.
The other one's a brown ale, I think.
Probably about what is it, about 5-6% alcohol by volume?
6.2.
Yes. Oh, 6.2. Okay.
That's pretty.
Not bad.
Pretty good. Pretty strong. So
yeah.
All right. So let's jump in. You said this was one of your favorite chapters, right? So I'm going to let you kind of lead, and I'll jump in. I've got some examples that I was thinking about as I went through it. And we'll also make a couple references back to a book that we talked about in the past. But yeah, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah. So I did. This was one of my favorite chapters. And a couple of reasons. One is I guess one of my takeaways is that when you're writing, you got to be careful about and we've talked about this in some previous episodes, going too dramatic on your claims, because people might not believe those things. I mean, you think about any product that, you look at advertising, there's certain limitations people have in their mind. So one of the things that he talked about is being careful not to use too powerful a claim in your headline,
right? Because
that may not line up with what your prospect thinks in his mind he's capable of achieving or doing. So I'm 5'10" and a half to 11. So any product that claims I'm going to that's going to enhance my ability to be a part of the NBA, probably just going to turn me off right away. There's no chance I'm going to be dunking. So
yeah. I don't know, Spud Webb would differ.
No, that's true. Yeah, Spud Webb, 5'7", 5'6", 5'7". So
yeah, and
not too many of those though.
Muggsy Bogues.
That's true.
Both of them were in the 80s, 90s.
Yep. Spud was in Atlanta too, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. So anything's possible.
Yeah.
But just the majority of the market is not going to believe.
Right. Right. But just being careful, using that, there's always a time and place for that powerful claim, but it's not always the headline is not always the best place to do it, because that's your opportunity where obviously we talked about it many times. Your headline's the place where your prospect sees, that's what they read first.
Right.
And do you want to make the most powerful claim, part of your headline where you could, a certain number of your people may get turned off to say that's not for me, or that's not.
And I think
doable.
This is where when you do not do this well, this is where the idea of hype comes in, right? It's hypey copy, or it's a hypey presentation. And again, we keep saying headlines, but this is opening sentence in a presentation.
Absolutely.
This is a elevator pitch. It's whatever.
Yeah, that sales call. The first thing that you say on a sales call. What?
And especially in sales, and especially if you're doing corporate sales or industrial sales or something like that, where you're dealing with people who get pitched a lot and hear a lot, and the more successful I think whoever you're talking to and you're trying to persuade and influence, the higher their BS meter for this kind of stuff. Right. They know
they've heard it all.
Yeah, they've heard all this stuff. And they know which claims are legit.
Yeah.
And which ones aren't. I'm always amazed when I watch like Shark Tank.
Yeah.
like how different the expectations are of the sharks, who were all multimillionaires, some billionaires. And as soon as somebody comes out and says, we sold, $2 million in 3 months, they're like, all right, what happened there? Like, what was the big thing that happened? And tell me about what you did 6 months before and 6 months after. Like, 'cause they know that's a blip.
Yeah.
They know that's not, like that's not something they've figured out, or
it's
they
not
wouldn't be on the show.
Yeah.
So the more savvy your market, the more important this becomes. But really what we're talking about is getting people to that point of belief.
Yep.
And I wrote in my notes when I was reading through it, what you want people to say when they first start reading, or somewhere along the way, but earlier the better, is like, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
They should feel that, not like, sounds too good to be true.
Right.
I'd like for it to be true, but I don't know. That's a different feeling and a different level of belief than, man, this is what I've been looking for. Why didn't I know about this 6 months ago? So that's kind of if you're trying to gauge the level of response of your audience, to me, that is like the ideal response. And then from there, we can begin to gradualize and ratchet up our claims, because we're taking them, from a little bit of buy-in, and then we start proving our case and work them up.
Yeah. Yeah, I underlined, if you violate your prospect's established belief in the slightest degree at the beginning, either in the content or direction, then nothing you promise him after that, no matter how appealing it is going to save your copy or your presentation or whatever.
Right.
So you're already, once you violate that early on, or use that early on in the beginning, then it's really going to be, it's an uphill battle after that. It can be. So
if they even keep, even if they stay tuned, stay tuned in at all.
Yep.
More than likely in today's environment, they're just going to close the page, tune out.
Yeah. That's not for me.
Yeah. If it's an in-person presentation, then they're just going to check out mentally, even if you're still in front of them talking.
Yeah.
So another thing that he mentioned in here was just the idea that more than like facts or truths or anything else that you present, people need emotional security.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. And a friend of mine, who we should probably have on the show at one point, he talks about really what everybody's looking for is to feel safe. Whether it's feel safe in their home, or feel safe in their car, or feel safe about their employment, feel safe about their money, feel safe about how good of a parent they are. Like it really all boils down to a very primal need to feel safe, protected, not at risk. And when you start over promising, it kind of makes people stand up and get a little nervous. Yeah. So
I think males tend to think, security, that's a female thing, but it's not.
No, it's a human thing.
It's a human need for sure.
So we're calling this whole process of persuasion gradualization. Yeah. Because we want to gradually move people from where they are and what they already believe to, and build a bridge to something that's a little bit higher. So there's a couple different things that we're not going to get into right away, but just for a 30,000 foot view, there's mechanization, concentration, and verification. Yep. So those are three things that we'll get to in future episodes, and we'll continue laying out kind of the groundwork here. The process. So what's cool about gradualization is that it's not so much what you say as how and when you say it.
Right.
Like what part of the conversation, written or otherwise, do you say it?
At what stage you're presenting that? Yeah.
So we talked before about a book called The Architecture of Persuasion.
Yep.
With Michael Masterson. And that book really does a good job of really blowing this chapter out into a kind of a story form, and he gives really good examples of that. Yeah. So if you didn't hear that episode, that's a great episode to go back and listen to, or just grab the book. It's in our book resources section on the website, persuasionbythepint.com. So yeah, every image, every claim, every proof has two parts to it. It has the content of the statement itself, like what you're saying, and then also it talks about what do you say right before that?
Mm-hmm.
Like to get them ready.
Yeah.
So I had a coach one time, life coach, type coach, who he would spend, 4, 5, 6 minutes if he was about to drop some knowledge on you or to a room of people. He did a lot of corporate work. He would spend 4 or 5 minutes like just
priming you for
priming the room, getting them ready, getting them open to receive, and kind of laying the groundwork for what he was going to say. He didn't just go in and say this thing, whatever it was. He really took the time to get people, find out where they were, and really just lay the groundwork so that when he said it, it was like, wow. He was just a master at that. So that was pretty cool. And that's what you really want to do anytime you're persuading or trying to influence anybody.
I tell my kids all the time that there are two different personalities, and you see this. I mean, you look at this in any kind of persuasive environment, whether it's presenting an argument, but I always tell them, so one has a tendency to go straight for the jugular to his point and to argue the point, whereas the other is a little more subtle, and he's very good at that. He builds up his case. And he's very good at it about convincing if he wants something or he needs something for school or that he wants a program or something really to his own, it's for his own entertainment or whatever. Right. But he's very good at working his way up, whereas the other one just goes straight to it and he
I do that
gets shot down in flames,
I do that with my wife when there's something like I want, I'll always start with, I didn't even realize I did this, but she called me out on it one time. I'll always be like, I don't know if you're going to like this, and you may not be okay with it.
Right.
And then I kind of lay out what it is, and she's like, I don't see what the big deal about that is.
Sure.
But because I put that sentence in there, her brain kind of goes to worst case scenario, so anything less than that is
right.
Is
absolutely
better,
You've automatically, because they're automatically her thought is, oh my gosh, what are you about to say?
What's he going to propose now? Like, So apparently I do that a lot because she called me out on it. She's like, you always say that and it's always fun. I'm like, I was like, well, it must be working because I keep doing it.
Yeah, I know. It works every time.
So I've trained myself. But so on when he talks about the architecture of belief, he talks about increasing intensity and changing the place or position or sequence of something.
Yep.
I actually had this happen this week. I was working with a copywriter that I've got a company that I'm working with, consulting with, and I'm helping train one of their junior copywriters, young guy. We were doing a promotion, and there was, I like to use like 3 bullet point type facts, mini case studies, I call them. So we were talking about a product where you can create your own physical product, sell it on Amazon, and then get bought out, 2-3 years down the road for a 7-figure, 8-figure sum. And this guy that is behind the course has done that for himself twice, and hundreds of other of his students have done it. So we were given 3 examples, and when he put them in, he put in, Dollar Shave Club founder, made $1 billion. RX bar guy, he made $600 million, and then somebody else made like $10 or $20 million. And I said, that's really good, but flip it. Flip the sequence. And this is something that I learned from Mark Ford. Michael Masterson was his pen name at the time, but Mark Ford. He said always ascend your numbers if they're proof, because you build the anticipation, you kind of ratchet it up. So it's 10 million, 600 million, 1 billion. So it's that belief bridge, right? Most people aren't going to believe they can sell a business for $1 billion, and they shouldn't.
No.
Because that's pretty rare. Even though we hear about it, the reason we hear about it is because it's so rare.
Right.
So to ratchet that up is just to flip those numbers. So if you're making a case about performance and you've got 2 or 3 testimonials or 2 or 3 case studies, instead of starting with the highest and working down, which is what a lot of people do because they want to come out of the gate and like really wow people, instead start with the lower and then work. We had A that did 100 units per hour, and but then a few adjustments. B, we got to 150 units an hour. Yeah. With this client, who's our ideal client, they got to 200 units an hour, or whatever the measurement is. And it's much more believable to see it
Absolutely.
that way.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of like sequence and positioning and things like that.
It's a main reason you see a lot of network marketing companies, they teach, they train their people to don't go out there and sell $1 million business. Go out there and sell what it means. Like we were talking about this earlier before the show. Sell what it means to not have to worry about paying the mortgage every month. What would it mean if you had another $1,000 in your bank account?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of people in that situation.
Yeah.
$1,000 would make a huge difference for a lot of people. So, sell them on that because you have to baby step them up the ladder.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of people that listen to this podcast are probably more successful than the average, the average American or average person out there. I mean, the average income in the world is still, probably less than 50,000.
It is.
I mean, in the U.S.
If you think about it, yeah.
So when you're talking about $1,000, I mean, that's a big chunk. I mean, it's why every insurance commercial is bragging about $400 a year in savings.
Right.
But if you're in the internet marketing space, or if you're in, some of these spaces where people are buying $2,000 courses and all this stuff, you think that's just throwaway money, and it's not.
No.
And so it's easy for us to get caught up in this big claims and big price tags and all that kind of stuff. And the fact is, the majority of people just aren't there.
Right.
And they're not going to believe they can make $1 million. They want to believe it.
Sure.
And they kind of dream about it, but they don't actually believe it.
Yeah, realistically, if it, when you put the nose to the grindstone, they're thinking, well, that sounds great, but that sounds so far off in my life. Right now, I just need to make my car payments.
Right.
And then maybe I can get to that, but I'm never going to get to that point unless I'm making my car payments.
So I told you before the show started that I wrote one of the first pieces of copy I ever wrote that was intentionally like a copywriting piece. I was going to AWAI's boot camp.
Yeah, right.
And back in 2008, I think it was. So this was before I was full-time. But I'd committed to going full-time at that point. I just hadn't done it yet. I hadn't found a client yet. So they had a contest where you could submit headline and leads, and you could win money if yours got selected. So I wrote from my personal experience, and this is why you have to always stay in touch. And Eugene Schwartz talked about this. You have to stay in touch with the mass market, like people who read National Enquirer or People Magazine or Us Magazine, and go watch Avengers movies, because that's the masses.
Right.
So I wrote this headline, and it was, I don't need to be rich. We just want to pay our bills on time. I just want to pay our bills on time. And that was in quotes. And it was a quote from my wife. And so the first paragraph was something around, we were sitting at the kitchen table, bills piled up, blah, 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 blah. And, we didn't think there was a way out. And then we talk about this thing called copywriting. And that was a skill I developed, and we, pulled our way out. So that, and it won one of the prizes. And,
man, that's great.
Got a nice $1,000 check that is, it's cashed, but a copy of it is framed, because I needed it when I wrote that.
That's exactly.
I mean, that check literally. I don't know if Katie or Rebecca would be listening to this or not from AWAI, but that check literally paid our hotel room when we were down at that conference.
Wow,
that's how tight we were at that time. We were there on faith and on a credit card that was pretty much maxed out.
Man,
and had we not gotten that check, that would have. It would have been really, really rough. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, that was fun. And like I said, that piece of copy, of all the copy I've written, is still hanging in my office, because that was the first. That was when my belief about my ability to persuade and influence, in writing, really kicked up, a whole another notch.
Wow.
So, by the way, if you like AWAI, or if you'd like to learn more about copywriting, do we have those on our site yet? Or we
will. We should have those up.
They're going to be one of our kind of our sponsors. That we'll have some of the links to their products and banners on the persuasionbythepint.com website.
Yep.
So go check those guys out. I vouch for them. If nothing else, get on their email list. They write great copy.
Absolutely.
And do a great job persuading and things like that. So what else we got in this chapter? I know we're going to take a break halfway through. Or what else did you want to point out before we get to that point?
Maybe share some examples. Like, I really liked, even though it's it's looking back, most of the stuff's dated, like the cigarettes and TV repair manuals and stuff like that. We don't even fathom anything repair, any kind of repair manual today, because everything's so, nothing lasts. You're just replacing
disposable,
it. But the example on page 135 is a great example. The headline that doesn't overpromise, but captures your attention. That says, why haven't TV owners been told these facts? So there's an example of a headline or leading with something that doesn't cause, skepticism right away. It's actually very, creates curiosity. People want to know, okay, what have I been missing? Again, we've talked about stuff like this in the past, but that's a subtle way of building intrigue without overpromising.
He was using FOMO way before it was like a thing, right? Because it's like you're like, what? Well, what don't I know? Which is hard to get out.
It's like your average consumer; they feel like they're getting. Am I getting taken here? What's the deal here? So that I want to know.
And that kind of riffs off the old headline. Have you made these mistakes in English? That came out probably 20 years before that headline did. So I wonder if that didn't come a little bit from there. But because right before that, he talks about why this headline was used. And there's two things a potential customer who is going to have a home repair course on how to repair a TV at home, they had to believe. So he, Schwartz then, or whoever wrote that ad, I think it was Schwartz, sat down and said, okay, where are they starting at?
Sure.
And this is something I think most people don't do a very good job at, myself included. A lot of times I just breeze right past this. But like, what are the current states of belief? What's already true in my prospect's mind? And he had two things that he had to get the people to believe. One is that they could save money by making their own repairs. And two, that they were actually capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm not handy.
They're like, I can't touch that. I'll break it.
Yeah, it's electronics. I don't know how to do that. Whatever. So he had to very quickly get them to that point if they didn't already believe that. So that's the whole kind of working point of his ad, is to get people to say, yes, it's possible. And yes, not only is it possible, it's possible for me.
Right.
And that's a big overlooked thing, I think, in most sales presentations. Is making that bridge that most people believe what you're saying is possible, but they don't necessarily believe it's possible for them. Or else they'd probably already do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a disconnect there. I like the follow up, asking the question, following, the headline, was your set purchased after the spring of 1947?
Mine was.
Yeah. It must be. It's is it still black and white or what? I mean,
the TV is black. Yes, but it does project.
It's not a huge box with tubes running out of the back of it. No, I mean, I think what this does is, again, it without jumping and trying to push or overpromise right away or introduce some outlandish claim. What it's doing is it's helping to segment. Oh yeah, I fit into that category.
Yeah, it's qualifying. Really. Yeah, it's qualifying the reader. Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that
fits me.
That's me.
Yep.
Right? So now my belief is, okay, maybe this is for me.
Right.
Because I have that type of TV. So it's very, very subtle.
Yeah, it is.
It's this little ratchet of belief. And there's actually a psychological term called the Forer effect, which is also Barnum statements, horoscopes. They're all kind of off of that idea that if you ask these types of questions, it's why quizzes work online so well, is that if you think it's for you, then the result that comes after, you're more likely to also believe. So if you ask a question that they can say yes to, then they automatically believe anything that follows that is more applicable to them than if you had not asked that question. Yep. I don't know if that made sense, but...
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so start qualifying people. Spin Selling's a great book for that.
Yeah.
It's a great book we should probably look into someday.
That was one of when I first got into sales, that was It's on a shelf somewhere in here. But that was one of the first books I ever purchased, Spin Selling.
Yeah.
Which was phenomenal at the time. Still is. I mean, it's a classic.
And then what else is he says then after that, he gets into another promise. The first real promise of that ad is, then here is the full uncensored story of how you can avoid those $15 to $20 repair bills, avoid those $30 to $60 a year service fees, and still get the perfect movie clear pictures you've dreamed about. Mm-hmm. So apparently at one time you had a service contract for your TV and people would have to come quarterly or yearly to, just like your AC unit.
Yeah.
Because they were so unreliable and so, at that time fickle to temperature changes and all that stuff because of the way they, everything was mechanical and all that. So they tend to be a little more sensitive. So
nowadays they just sell you the 3-year, the 3 or 4 year warranty at Best Buy when you purchase that just in case, Yeah,
that's more of an insurance policy than they're just going to replace it.
Yep, exactly.
Nobody's coming to fix it.
No, there's no such thing as an actual repair anymore.
Yeah. So so they take you from this. Okay, you might qualify. If so, then, and he actually uses the word then.
Yep.
Therefore.
Yep. Therefore.
You see that a lot in
if
the New Testament.
Yep.
Paul's letters and stuff like that. When he's making his cases, he always wraps up with therefore, and then he makes his case.
Yeah.
And that book's done pretty well.
Yeah, I sold a few copies along the years.
What else?
I think this might be a good breaking point.
I think so too, because we're going to get next into, and there, if you get the book, and if you haven't gotten it already, we've got links to it on the site. It really breaks apart this ad. We're not going to go into the whole ad, but it really puts a lot of the ad throughout these pages, and you can really see how they break it down. Doesn't make for great podcast material to just go through and read that. But we are going to jump into, on the next episode, six
devices to add believability in your presentation or your copy or your sales copy or your presentation.
Yep. So. And or you're trying to convince your wife to do something.
Absolutely.
Just use several of these and you'll be safe.
Yep. Just don't jump the gun.
I've got a lot of beer to drink in the next 2 minutes before we go to the next. Yeah, you've got some work to do. It was too far away.
So again, that is Breakthrough Advertising, Chapter 9. Check it out. Also, we'll be putting a link to our this brewery, Chattahoochee. I'm not sure if you can. I think you can. We'll put the link up, but I'm not sure. I don't think they sell in any place. You have to be there to get it, so it's pretty exclusive.
Wow.
So
I feel privileged.
Yeah, I don't think you can get this anywhere else. So kind of like that brew you had from Austin. That was the only.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt you can get. This. I mean, at least those have
not going to be selling cans with labels slapped on them.
There's no UPC code on these. There's no there's no retail code.
Right.
To put this on. So yeah, it'd be hard. I bet it would be hard to get. So unless you're down in south of Georgia.
Yep.
South of Atlanta.
Yep.
In Georgia, you're not going to get it. So we'll enjoy it for you.
Yep. Good stuff. Thanks again for listening. Again, you can find us persuasionbythepint.com. And as Sean mentioned earlier, you can find also the AWAI links. We'll have those on the website too if you're interested in checking out any of their materials and getting started. It's a great resource for anybody that's thinking of getting into copy.
Yeah, and they have a lot more than just copywriting courses. They have a lot of courses that revolve around writing.
Yeah.
And just online stuff in general.
Yep.
They've really expanded out, whether you want to be a copywriter that writes sales promotions, or maybe you want to be a blogger, or you want to have a niche site.
Sure.
They have courses on all that stuff.
Fantastic.
It's a really great resource.
Good stuff. Hey guys, thanks again for listening. Have a great week.